In 1 week from now, Konami of America is bringing over to the TCG market a new pack styled in the same way as the Hidden Arsenal packs of old. Prepare yourselves for the Secret Forces. But why is this a big deal? Well, the Secret Forces brings over plenty of new cards into the TCG, including the mysterious monastic wind monsters known as the Yosenju, a band of psychic-type ritual beast tamers to tame the mighty beast released in Secrets of Eternity, but most importantly introduces the main core of the next archetype to hit the big three top decks, Nekroz. But this begs the question, what makes some red-haired kid named Shirt so influential to the metagame in a world where demons from hell, flying Jewish-themed spaceships, and shadow incarnations of the world monsters are duking it out for ultimate control? What makes Nekroz so good? Number 1! Consistency. Have you ever played a deck that has searchers searching searchers that search cards that search more copies of themselves? Well, if all of that searching is too tiring, Nekroz definitely is not the deck for you. This deck gets some of the most incredible consistency in searching for all of the pieces for its combos that this game has ever seen, using the help of cards such as Senju of the 1,000 Hands, Manju of the 10,000 Hands, and their primary ability to search Nekroz of Bryanak, which can grab you any Nekroz monster you could possibly want just by ditching him to the graveyard, searching Nekroz of Qliphorts in order to grab one of your 3 current ritual spells, Nekroz Exo Mirror, Nekroz Kaleido Mirror, or Nekroz Cycle. Not only do Manju and Senju search Qliphorts and Bryanak, the ritual spells themselves all have the capability to search themselves or any other Nekroz ritual spell simply by banishing them and another Nekroz card from the graveyard, providing of course that you have an empty field of monsters. On top of that, you have Preparation of Rites, and while it itself is unsearchable, the fact that it means an immediate +1, assuming that you have a ritual spell in the graveyard already, makes it one of the best cards in the entire deck, so much so that Konami had to reprint it in the TCG version of the Secret Forces, along with Manju and Jin releaser rituals. But what does this consistency mean without Number 2! Power plays. Every single deck that exists in the top tier meta currently has 1 or 2 so-called power plays that can drastically shift the game into the favor of the player making it. Burning Abyss has the ability to make 2 Dantes and set Fire Lake. Qliphorts have the ability to drop Diskin Self, 2 cards that by themselves can make game, and Shaddolls have the crazy ability to pull off crazy OTKs thanks to cards like Dark Arm Dragon, as well as the fact that El Shaddol Fusion is a quick play spell card. So what did Nekroz have in store for any player looking into playing with blue cards instead of black, purple, or whatever pendulums are? In the next segment of the video, I'll be going over some of the power plays that Nekroz have available to them that can make for huge advantage in the mirror match, or huge advantage for them in general. 3 combos that I'm going to be over is going to start with this. The first play I'll be going over is relatively simple, but can be easy to screw up due to the number of moving parts. All it requires is Manju or Senju, a way to get Nekroz of Yugioh, and a way to get Nekroz Kaleido Mirror. These 3 cards are some of the best combo pieces in the entire deck, and utilizing them will help you get a first turn edge in the mirror match by using this simple combo. So, you start with these 3 cards in your hand, and your ending field will be Lavalval Chain and a Nekroz of Qliphorts with the effect of Jin Releaser of Rituals on it. Step 1. Summon Manju and search for Nekroz of Bryanak. Step 2. Discard Nekroz of Bryanak and search for Nekroz of Qliphorts. Step 3. Discard Nekroz of Qliphorts and search for Nekroz Cycle. Step 4. Activate Nekroz Kaleido Mirror from your hand, sending Herald of the Arclight from your extra deck to the graveyard in order to summon Nekroz of Yugioh. Step 5. Activate Herald of the Arclight to search for whatever you'd like. I'll be searching for Nekroz of Gungnir in this particular example because you can use its effect to protect your Qliphorts later from nasty effects like Dark Hole and Raigeki. Step 6. Overlay Yugioh and Manju to make Lavalval Chain, activating its effect to send Jin Releaser Rituals to the graveyard from your deck. Step 7. Activate Nekroz Cycle, banishing the Jin Releaser Rituals from your graveyard in order to summon Nekroz of Qliphorts from your graveyard. Step 8. Laugh as your opponent doesn't draw his outs even though he runs 5 of them in his main deck. Now we'll start with a second combo. This one has the same starting, though I use Senju for this particular example. Starting with a hand of Nekroz Kaleido Mirror, Nekroz of Yugioh, and Senju/Manju can also end you with a clear field and 2 cards drawn from your deck, plus a search from your mirrors in the graveyard. Step 1. Summon Senju/Manju and search for Nekroz of Bryanak. Step 2. Discard Nekroz of Bryanak and search for Shrit, Caster of the Nekroz. Step 3. Activate Nekroz Kaleido Mirror, sending Herald of the Arclight from your extra deck to the graveyard in order to summon Nekroz of Yugioh. Step 4. Activate Herald of the Arclight to search for Nekroz Cycle. Pretty similar combos, aren't they? While they may be similar, they are both extreme power plays in the mirror, especially this one in particular once Outer God Nyarla is released into the TCG. Step 5. Overlay Unicorn Senju to make Lavalval Chain, activating its effect to send Nekroz of Valkyrus to the graveyard from your deck. Now you can see why Lavalval Chain had a huge price spike recently. Step 6. Activate Nekroz Cycle, tributing Shrit from your hand to summon Valkyrus from the graveyard. Step 7. Activate the tributed Shrit, searching for Nekroz of Qliphorts, then discarding Nekroz of Qliphorts to add whatever mirror you would like from your deck. Generally Exo Mirror, since it will now be live with any ritual monster in your hand and Shrit in the graveyard. Step 8. Activate Nekroz of Valkyrus' effect on the field, tributing both it and Lavalval Chain to draw 2 cards. This will net you an empty field of monsters, so as to avoid enemy Trishulas from triggering, since Nekroz of Trishula needs there to be a card present on the field, in the grave, and in the hand in order to activate upon summon. This is very important for this particular play. Step 9. Banish either Cycle or Kaleido from your graveyard to search another ritual spell, generally another Kaleido mirror. While these are arguably the strongest plays Nekroz has against the mirror, and in the case of the first one, specifically against Burning Abyss, laying down a good old-fashioned Trishula banish is a power play in itself, considering that it can make your opponent lose some heavy advantage should the effect not end up negated. But okay, the deck has consistency in the form of tons of searchers, and it has power plays, but does it have Number 3! Good effects and a fantastic toolbox. This is more of a minor point to make about the power behind the deck featuring nerds cosplaying as the best synchro monsters, but every ritual monster in the deck has a good effect on field and in hand that makes it a fierce fighter in battle. Much like Shaddolls, a good amount of these effects punish your opponent for use of the extra deck, with Qliphorts having the attack of any extra deck monster, Brionac bouncing up to 2 back into the extra, and Unicorn straight up negating their effects while it is on the field. Trishula obviously has a fantastic effect once it hits the field, but its in-hand effect also prevents your opponent from targeting one of your Nekroz ritual monsters, which is especially useful with pesky Snatch Seal running around. Nekroz of Decisive Armor, affectionately known as the big guy, has the ability to bump your Nekroz by 1000 attack and defense, including during the damage step, as well as banish any set card on the field once per turn when he graces the field with his 3300 impressive attack points. This whole slew of powerful effects and the ability for each Nekroz ritual to have a dual use in duels makes for an impressive toolbox of abilities, creating tough to get out situations for any opponent that might be next to be tributed for the mighty ritual cards in your deck. But how did Nekroz fare against Number 4! Good against the current top meta decks. Now, obviously all the points I've gone over thus far should tell you that Nekroz on its own is a strong deck, capable of consistently making strong plays by using its huge toolbox of effects. But how did Nekroz fare in the current meta? Against Shaddolls. It isn't uncommon to hear people talking about how Nekroz will be replacing Shaddolls in the current meta as one of the top 3, and it isn't hard to see why. With Releaser on their side, Nekroz can lock Shaddolls out of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Completely, and with a huge lack of back row, Denko Sekka doesn't hold the power it does over the other 2 top decks of the meta. Outside of that, Unicorn, Trishula, and Brionac are all extremely capable outs to any Winda they might be able to throw out, making it clear why Nekroz are likely to secure their spot in our current triangular meta. Against Burning Abyss. Against Burning Abyss, Nekroz have many strengths as well as a few weaknesses dependent on the variant of Burning Abyss the opponent happens to be playing. Against the version of Burning Abyss that only runs Fire Lake and no other traps, the opponent is guaranteed to have a hell of a burning time against releasered monsters, unless of course they happen to draw a Farfa. Against a more traditional version of Burning Abyss running Phoenix Wing Windblast, they're more likely to be able to draw outs to your releaser in the form of Phoenix Wing Windblast, but even then, having a Trishula in hand to be able to stop these cards in their tracks makes this a relatively easy matchup. Against Qliphorts. Now, here's where things begin to even out. Qliphorts nowadays are notorious for running 5 to 6 powerful traps that can completely shut down your opponent. Vanity's Emptiness, and Skill Drain. While these rough floodgates can cause some problems for anyone running cosplayers, a monster with Releaser's effect on it still poses a large problem for Qliphorts to get over without said Skill Drain, especially Nekroz of Qliphorts, considering the measly 2100 attack they usually sit at with Sacrifice equipped. Of course, in the favor of Nekroz, banishing Qliphort Scout with Nekroz of Trishula is absolutely amazing, as it is with any other Pendulum monster. This is a matchup that is significantly more even, and with the side deck being a thing that exists, these are truly going to be the exciting games that you'll need to be watching out for. Against themselves? The Nekroz mirror really comes down to two things and two things alone. Whoever can make a releaser play without their opponent drawing an out first, and your ability to pilot the deck. Nekroz has a surprisingly large amount of moving parts that can make it really daunting for any new player to attempt to pilot, and this skill is going to be one of the biggest influences in the mirror match. However, sometimes your opponent or yourself simply open a releaser play that can't be gotten out of, even with such popular cards as Book of Eclipse, Book of Moon, Raigeki, Dark Hole, and Snatch Steal being ever present. Though it's important to note that Releaser recently had a ruling change saying that whoever used it still has the effect, not the controller of the monster summoned using the Djinn. This is where the Nekroz mirror can sometimes end up being frustrated and one-sided. However, with enough skill and relieving in the heart of the cards, any duelist will be able to take on the mirror fists flying. So to recap, what makes Nekroz so good? Number 1! Consistency. Number 2! Power plays. Number 3! Good effects and a fantastic toolbox. Number 4! Good against the current top meta decks. Anyway guys, thank you so much to anyone that happens to be watching this video. If you happen to like this video, I'd love if you were to consider liking, commenting, and subscribing if you're interested in seeing more of the content that I produce. As a secondary thing, if there are any major points that you think I missed in this particular discussion, I really encourage you to tell me in the comment section down below. It will be particularly helpful not only to me, but to anyone else that plans on playing Nekroz in the future. This is retyopko bidding you all adieu. Later folks!